You know, what if I shot the whole review like this? Would this be like more aesthetically pleasing? What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for some sad boy music, because I'm talking about Nothing Nowhere, the pseudonym and stage name, I guess, of Joe Mulherin, an emo rapper, singer, crossing into the alternative genre. He bridges the gap between more beat-driven material and also acoustic guitars, electric guitars, blending more of an organic instrumental feel with some of these more hip-hop leaning beats. And honestly, as I've discovered Joe's music, it's kind of been an unraveling for me in the sense that I'm pulling up all these feelings that I thought were dormant, and it's just like he's hitting them on the head. I thought his LP Reaper that came out last year was really good, and honestly, if you want a rating for that right off the bat, I'd say it's a 4 on my scale. That's a record that I found to be definitely impactful, also very emotional, well played. The guitars might sound similar throughout, and on this new project Ruiner as well, but honestly, I think that they really just kind of cultivate that atmosphere that he's really trying to go for, and he nails it down here with a hammer. Don't lie to yourself, you know part of the reason you keep coming back to my channel is the puns. Now, this new album, Ruiner, is something that I was excited for after hearing a couple of the singles. I heard the title track, and while I wasn't huge on that one right out of the gate, I think that it's definitely grown on me. Then I heard Hammer, and everything changed, because this is so different from his early material, some of the early EPs, and even the Nothing Nowhere LP, which had more acoustic-driven stuff that was very downtrodden, just really depressing stuff, kind of emotionally crushing on some levels, and Hammer is the first time that I've ever seen him get, I don't know, maybe a little bit cocky and braggadocious. Hammer has quickly become one of my favorite songs of 2018. It lays down the acoustic guitar really quickly, and you start to notice that loop that goes on, and it's just so addicting, not only there, but obviously the way that he portrays himself lyrically. He's talking about the fact that nobody was coming to see him live, and now he's selling out shows, all of these other things that he has every right to brag about. I mean, this dude sounds so depressed the majority of the time. Honestly, it's just kind of refreshing to see him in a different atmosphere with a more upbeat song that you can really vibe with. While his last album, Reaper, was released through DCD2 Records last fall, he's fully made the transition to their subsidiary, Fueled By Ramen, which is a bigger step, a bigger label for him, but I think they were trying it out on DCD2, and clearly he really stepped into the spotlight here. Now, it's funny that Spencer Smith, formerly of Panic at the Disco, is now working A&R for DCD2, and he talked a little bit about the tracks on Reaper, and honestly, it was really cool to get the insight, because he says the way that Joe writes, it's not like a typical thing where a record label is kind of intervening and saying, alright, well, let's kind of shape the songs like this, or let's build this more poppy bridge. It's just that they kind of talk about the general idea of the album or the project, and for Ruiner, Spencer knew right away that this was going to be something special. Waster was officially the lead single from this project, and that came out at the end of January, and while I didn't hear it right away, as soon as I did hear it, I was kind of caught off guard by the fact that this track features some howls, some screaming that's very intense towards the end of the track, but it's kind of filtered out so that it doesn't sound super loud. It's just that somebody sounds like they're away from the microphone, and you know, you're hearing that intensity. I really kind of pick up on the vibes of that track, and I really started to relate to it because it's the closer here, and it's poetic in a sense, because he's just giving phrases, and then it leads into the rest of the song, and then the screams for that kind of meltdown of an outro. It's just a really nice way to, I don't know, represent the album, I suppose, but also close it out at the same time. I think the biggest complaint for a lot of people when listening through this record is the fact that a lot of these songs do sound similar, and the guitars, and the way that they just kind of have that steady plucking melody that kind of loops throughout and kind of coexists with the beat. I think a lot of people are probably not going to get on board with that, especially for repeated listens, and I understand that in a sense, but I also think that people are going to feel that way because they're only going to listen to it once or twice, and they're not going to look into the lyrical content whatsoever. Some of these songs really started to move me a little bit more emotionally once I started reading along and getting into the vibe of the record more, because some of these tracks just kind of leave you. They take you and they break you, like Changer, for example. That one really had me reflecting back on childhood, wondering if everything changed and I'm just caught up. I can't stop seeing the old memories when I close my eyes. Was it really that great back then, or am I just more miserable now as an adult and I don't know what's going on? And with Joe being 25 years old, I'm 26, I feel like we're kind of on the same level here. He even talks about skating with his friends growing up. That's exactly what I did. And as I listen to this project, I'm just like, damn, I'm getting old for one. And Thanks, Joe. Now I'm all emotional over here, but I love the song. He talks about similar themes on Better, which comes towards the start of this record. This is a song that once again gets you thinking about your youth and your childhood and wondering if things were really better back then or if we're just seeing it through that nostalgic lens that only lets us see the good. And honestly, I'm just as torn as he is, because while a lot of the time I do find myself reminiscing on those days, wishing I could go back and not really knowing at times exactly what's going on in my modern life, or things ever going to be as exciting and as new and as fresh again. And that's why I feel like I relate to the struggle of this song so much. There's a really nice guitar that loops on this one, kind of a heavy beat, and once the guitar really gets going on this track, it's easy to vibe with, and that chorus really is something that captivates you, because it's not a typical pop chorus whatsoever, but it still finds a way to drive itself and lodge itself into your brain. What I really like about Nothing Nowhere is that I think that he's talented as a rapper and a singer. He's not one of those rappers where it comes in and it's so obvious that he's needing a ton of auto-tune or something to really round out or fill out his voice. He actually comes across while still sounding raw, not sounding bad whatsoever, and I think as a singer, I do admire him, but when he comes in and starts rapping on some of these tracks like Reminscer, for example, or even Changer, which really just hits you right off the bat with a faster paced rap, and obviously Hammer, where he really shows off the bars and the ability to sound great over a guitar, or more of a guitar driven rhythm, I would say. I think that he's really just talented all around, and while it might not always be pushing borders or super inventive or anything like that, if you're into this style of music, I really think this is going to click for you, because it's not poorly written. In fact, most of these songs are pretty well written, I would say, and even if the themes are familiar, they're kind of a good familiar, like seeing an old friend for the first time in a while. I really like the rotation of guitar notes, really just up and down, to make more of a fast-paced, rapid feeling with some firing off drums, some more organic drums, I should say, which do appear throughout this LP. I think on Vacanter, he really just dials up the vocals a notch, and with the backing vocals that appear on this track, especially during the chorus, it really helps this one just pop off a little bit more. Then the track right before that is another one that I found really interesting, because it seems like it's about the demise of a relationship. That track is called Sayer, and this one really struck a chord with me because it does kind of feel sad, but it also feels guilty, and it also feels like frustration. And I realize that that might sound a little bit basic on paper, but the way that he's able to relay it to the listener, I think it's really a fresh take on things. Sinker is really catchy as well, definitely very hook driven, with the vocals sounding really earwormy there, and I can't quite put a pin in it, but I do feel like that one maybe just pales a bit in comparison. And with the track Ruiner, the title track from this album, I mentioned kind of not liking it right away, but then getting more on board. I think that the more you listen to it, honestly, it might not have as big of a shelf life. It might not be one of the top songs that you hear from this record over and over and over again, but it still does have its merits. I really have to say the only track on this record that I don't care for all that much is Rejector, because that one just feels like it's putting out themes that I've heard so many times before. The lyrics don't feel fresh at all, and it just feels like Nothing Nowhere trying to be Nothing Nowhere for the sake of having another song, and it feels a little bit more meritless. For me personally, this is on par with his album Reaper. I'm really enjoying it, and while I do love a lot of his early stuff that I've gone back and checked out, it's just maybe a little bit too depressing with some of the acoustic guitars. Sometimes I have to really be in the mood for it. With this new stuff, it's more spacious, vibey, beat-driven, still got the guitars, the live drums a lot of the times as well, and it's really interesting. It's a nice blend, and I know that a lot of people are going to come down on me and say like, oh, there's so much better stuff out there in the world of emo or alternative or rap or whatever. This is just something that I personally find myself relating to. I think a lot of people will as well, and it's a nice chill record to just spin. It's 33 minutes, it kicks off with a nice little sample. I also do have to say that I love the samples that some of these tracks start off with. Just a really nice vibe and addition there. He must have had to go through so many clips to actually make some of these work. So honestly, I think he pulled it off here. I'm gonna give this a light 4. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. Have you heard Ruiner by Nothing Nowhere? If not, make sure you check the link down below to stream it for yourself. You know, what if I just shot the whole review like this? Would that be more aesthetically pleasing? Joe Mulheron, he is a emo rap. Don't lie to yourself, the puns of the Don't lie to yourself, the Please drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. Ring that bell as well if you want to see more music-related content, top 10s, ranked episodes, obviously plenty of album reviews and that sort of thing. A couple of recent videos are floating right here. Make sure you check those out and find me on social media linked in the description. Other than that, I'll see you soon on ARTV.